Coming up first at 4, all's quiet right now on Storm Tracker 4. However, back to the west, pretty concerning. A big batch of thunderstorms. Some of those are going to come our way, and some of those could be severe. I'll have your complete forecast straight ahead. Jason?
All right, Paul, and he was being watched for terrorism, and he had enough explosives and weapons to do some serious damage. We're learning disturbing new details about a Warren man hurt in an explosion over the weekend. And Detroit plays a key role in the second hearing from the January 6th committee. Team coverage right now, first at 4.
Live from downtown Detroit, Local 4 News First at 4 starts now.
Happy Monday, everybody. I'm Jason in for Karen, who's on assignment today. Right now, let's start with the local forecasters. Watching those storms that are moving into Metro Detroit tonight could bring some serious wind, hail, and our team not ruling out the possibility of a tornado. Let's get right over to Paul, who's following all of it for us. Hey, Paul.
Yep. Hey, Jason. And as I just mentioned, we are quiet right now here on Storm Tracker 4. Things are fairly nice out there. It's a pretty decent, I guess we'll call it late spring, early summer afternoon. But back to the west, you can see a big batch of rain. Now, a lot of this right here, this is just general garden variety, showers and thunderstorms. This stuff here, and I have it in motion here to show you, this stuff is going to pass well to our north here. That's not what we're concerned about. We're concerned about developing thunderstorms on the back edge of that. Some of this stuff is going to come rotating down into the area. Let me show you what's going on. First of all, if you're heading out right now, upper 70s to around 80 degrees. Again, plenty of sunshine out there, a nice afternoon, but it's not going to stay that way into the evening hours. So here we are as we move through the evening hours. One batch of storms and possibly a second batch coming in. This batch right here coming in mid-evening could impact the later part of the Tiger game. And then we have another batch potentially coming in. Either of these could be severe. Notice this stuff doesn't move out until 3 o'clock in the morning or so. So if you are going to that Tiger game, again, first part of the game is nice and toasty and very pleasant. But again, later in the game, showers and storms possibly severe. So we'll keep an eye on that and we'll bring you more Storm Tracker 4 coming up in just a few minutes. But don't forget, the Local Forecasters app is a must-have this evening. If you have alerts approved and turned on, you will get instant updates on warnings and things like that. You have real-time radar to track the storms yourself. Just go to the App Store, search under WDIV, and best of all, Jason, the nation's best weather app is free.
We're following some breaking news. It's been a tough day, to say the least, on Wall Street as the markets closed about 2 minutes ago. And you're taking a look at the big board, the Dow finishing down 874 points. The S&P tumbled more than 20% below a record set early this year, pushing it toward a bear market status. Investors are monitoring the soaring inflation. Economists think the Federal Reserve may raise rates again on Wednesday. First at 4, we're on top of the big moments from the second hearing from the January 6th committee. Today we heard from former President Trump's staffers who say they tried to convince him he lost the election. Detroit also played a pretty big role in this hearing. We have team coverage on this with Paula Tutman talking to experts about the big takeaways. But let's start with Devin to walk us through the hearing today. Devin?
Yeah, it was a fascinating day, Jason. The panel heard from several in-person witnesses and also played recorded depositions from Ivanka Trump, Jared Kushner, and former Attorney General William Barr. The hearing started with election night. Top Trump aides testified that they tried to dismiss the former president's claims of voter fraud, but they say he ignored them and instead listened to Rudy Giuliani.
What was your observation about his potential intoxication during that discussion about what the president should say when he's addressed the nation on election night?
And the mayor was definitely intoxicated, but I do not know his level of intoxication when he spoke with the president, for example.
Now, throughout the hearing, a panel of witnesses tried to debunk the former president's theories of voter fraud in places like Michigan, but also Georgia and Pennsylvania. In pre-recorded testimony, former Attorney General William Barr brought up former President Trump's claims of a, quote, big vote dump in Detroit.
People saw boxes coming into the counting station at all hours of the morning and so forth. And I explained to him that at that point, I knew the exact number of precincts in Detroit. I think it was 630 something. I said, Mr. President, there are 630 precincts in Detroit, and unlike elsewhere in the state, they centralized the counting process, so they're not counted in each precinct. They're moved to counting stations, and so the normal process would involve boxes coming in at all different hours. So there's nothing. And I said, did anyone point out to you, did all the people complaining about it point out to you, you actually did better in Detroit than you did last time? I mean, there's no indication of fraud in Detroit.
The committee also read into evidence a report from the Michigan Senate Oversight Committee that, quote, disproved claims of election fraud. The committee's next hearing scheduled for Wednesday morning at 10. You can watch that live right here on Local 4. Much more on today's hearing coming up on Local 4 News at 5. Jason, back to you.
Yeah, important to point that out too, Devin, how people don't understand how the voting works in Detroit
right.
sometimes. Yeah, good to hear that. All right, Devin, thanks. And we're getting some insight into why the commission has chosen to lay out the evidence this way. Paula Tutman is talking to the local experts on this and has more.
It is vitally important to understand not just the evidence being presented in these hearings, but why it's being presented and the way it's being presented and to whom it's actually being presented to.
In Michigan and Pennsylvania and all over, how the FBI and Department of Justice, I don't know, maybe they're involved.
By showing the words of the people in then President Donald Trump's inner circle, evidence is being presented in a deliberate and documented way, explains Professor Diane Hartness, a political science associate professor and expert in the Constitution and constitutional law for Oakland University.
They want to lay out their case so carefully because they then turn it over to the Department of Justice, and it is up to the Department of Justice to actually bring charges, but they are the investigatory body. Yes, I think that's exactly what they found is sedition. And I think they found it at the highest levels of our government, which is terrifying.
Which is why former Attorney General Bill Barr's testimony is particularly important as the top law enforcement officer in the land in the Trump administration.
Barr persisted in telling the president that there was no evidence to support the fraud claims.
This got under my skin, but I also felt it was time for me to say something. I told him that the stuff that his people were shoveling out to the public was bullshit. I mean, that the claims of fraud were bullshit. And, he was indignant about that. And I reiterated that they'd wasted a whole month on these claims on the Dominion voting machines, and they were idiotic claims.
But Professor Jonathan Weinberg, who also teaches constitutional law at Wayne State University, says the next steps are less about court of law and more about the court of public opinion.
Really, in the most important respects, the committee is making a case to the American people because the committee believes that this was a case in which the President of the United States conspired to essentially void the results of a presidential election, to stay in office even if he lost. The committee members know full well that this came close enough to succeeding that there's every reason to think that people close to the president, supporters of the president, will be interested in trying those sorts of scams again.
Okay, and so now I'm going to try to thread a very, very thin needle. The commission is not going after the former president for exhausting all legal remedies for what he claimed was fraud, proven time and time again by courts not to be true. They're going after Donald Trump for basically trying to overturn an election. For instance, looking for those 11,780 votes in Georgia, what he said, the way he said it, and creating that causal connection with people who stormed the Capitol, drawing that direct line between Trump and the rioters in hopes that they can make a case to the American people by way of the Department of Justice and hopefully picking off some of those people who are not firmly, Jason, entrenched in their opinions. It's a lot to digest, but it's very important to dial into the nuances.
Absolutely right, and just very strategic in the way everything has been laid out. Paula, thank you. An update now to a story we followed over the weekend. Police say a man hurt in an explosion in Warren was on a federal watch list and has possible links to domestic terrorism. The 38-year-old man lost a hand as he handled an explosive at the home on Gentner. This is near 8 Mile and Hayes, and it happened Saturday. Warren police say investigators found several small explosive devices. They found guns and 4,000 rounds of ammo. They say it was enough to cause significant damage to the neighborhood. There you can see some video of it. The man is in the hospital with second and third degree burns, and he is under investigation. All eyes on Washington as a bipartisan Senate group reaches a framework now for stricter gun safety laws. The framework would enhance background checks for gun buyers 18 to 21 years old, requiring them to check with local police. Senators also agreed to help states take guns away from people deemed a threat, closing a loophole that allowed some domestic abusers to buy guns. The framework also provides money for school security and mental health resources. 10 Republican senators have signed on to this compromise, and that is a sign it could get the 60 votes needed to become law.
It is a substantial compromise that is going to stop a lot of suicides, a lot of homicides, and save a lot of lives in this country.
Undoubtedly, there will be some further tweaks. We're continuing to meet.
Senators are pushing to vote on the bill in the next couple of weeks and get it to the president's desk by the end of July. Gas prices are up another 18 cents in Michigan over the last week. We're paying an average of $5.22 per gallon statewide. That's a record high. It's 87 cents more than this time last month and more than $2 higher than last year. Experts think prices will stay high through the summer as more people travel and then might go down in the fall.